Hey guys, this is going to be part 2 of the tutorial for creating WhatsApp web with Appwrite and Vue. Sorry for the long gap between part 1 and this part. I was on vacation and it was a bit difficult to record a video with only one screen, but the frequency of the videos should now go right back up. So where we're holding, just do a quick recap. We currently finished hooking up the Appwrite backend to our Vue front end. We created a test account and that worked fine. If we go to our users, we see we have the user, and what we're going to create in this video is just the authentication stuff, so login, registration, all that good stuff. So let's just jump right into it. So the way we're going to implement it is we're going to have a login route and we're going to have a register route, which will take us to the login register pages respectively. And once the user logs in successfully, we'll have a page that they can access. So to begin with, let us go to install the Vue router at 4. While waiting for that, we can actually remove this code since we don't actually need it. And now that we got the Vue router, we'll just set it up. So we're going to say const router is equal to create router. And we're going to have the history, which is essentially how we tell the Vue router what method we want to use to navigate between two pages. We're going to say the create web history and not the web hash history. And then we're going to have routes. Okay, let's tell Vue 2 that we want to use the router. Awesome. And let's actually create our routes. So we have routes, which is going to be route record raw, and this will then be routes. Awesome. So the first thing we're going to do is go to pages. And if you don't have the pages directory, I don't remember if I created it just now or in the previous video, but essentially we want a pages directory underneath the source directory. This is going to be for all our top level pages. And let's say login.vue. This is just going to be a template that says h1 login. Awesome. And now we just want to create a route, which the path is going to be /login. The component is going to be login, which we'll import in a second, and then the name is going to be login as well. And let's just import the login component, pages login.vue. And if we go back here, go to the login page. Well, that didn't work, and the reason for that is we just need to put a router view in here, and then that will work. Okay, the router view is essentially our way of telling Vue that we want to navigate the routes and put the login component or whatever component we're navigating to over here. So we see we have login here. Something I'm just going to want to add in here is main with a class of width of the full screen, the height of the full screen, and maybe a background gray 100. Just see that. Okay, awesome. And I think that is it for this. Let's just make it a flex as well, and we are good to go. Cool. We also actually just want to go overflow. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right, let's actually just put that in here, and then that will solve that issue. Alt there, and now we have a router view with that in there. Good. So now we want to move on to the login component. Over here, we're going to have the template, and then we're going to have a section this is essentially going to be a full screen section. So we have a class of width full, height full, flex column. We're going to want items center and then justify center. And actually before we go on with this, let's actually just create our components. So if we think about what we're going to need here, we're going to need a input to type in the username and password, and we're going to need a button. So let's actually just create generic components for those that will help us for the rest of this project really. So let's create a input component. And I'm going to paste in some code here just because there's no real reason of going through the whole thing. And I'm going to have this code as a gist in the description. So you could just copy that right in. Since we really want to get into the actual WhatsApp web, I'm not going to waste time over here. But essentially, we have a label, we have an input that accepts any type, whether that's email or password or whatever it is. It's going to be a nice green, which should match the WhatsApp styling. We have the placeholder. We have the V model, which is essentially our way of two-way binding between the model and over here. And when we input, we're going to say we want to update the model value. And this is just a way of us being able to use V model on the parent component. And we'll see what I mean there in a second. And let's just also do the same thing for our button component, which is button.view. And we're just going to paste this code in here. And this is even simpler. It's essentially just a button that has some text, and that's it. Cool. So if we go back to our login page, we now have our section with all the necessary code. Actually just make this bigger. I remember someone said it in the previous tutorial that they couldn't see so well, so they just make it a bit bigger. We have a section, and then here we'll have a div, class width 80. This is going to be our actual container for the login form. Flex column, and then items center. Cool. And then we're going to have an image here, which is just going to be the WhatsApp logo, which is another link I'll provide in the description. H1, which is going to be login to your account. I'll just make that class 3XL. Sorry, text 3XL MT2. Font bold. Nice. Then we're going to have a way to navigate to the registration page. So that's going to say or. Then we're going to have a span over here, which will say class equals text green 500, where we'll say router link, and this is going to be to/register, and I'll explain this in a second. And over here we want to create a new one. And essentially what this is we have the header log to your account, or you can create a new account. And I'll show you what that looks like if we look over here. So we have log into your account, and when we click that, it will actually take us to the registration page. But we didn't actually set that up yet, so let's go back to login for now and continue with this. Okay, so now we're going to start using our custom input component. So we're going to need to import that first. Script setup lang ts, and we're going to import. Let's see if it will auto import for us. That would be nice. Awesome. And the way I'm doing that shortcut is I'm doing Control space, or Command Enter. I think it's for Mac. I'm not sure. And that auto imports the component for us. And this is going to be pretty simple. We're going to say type is equal to text. Our label is going to be email. Our placeholder is going to be someone at somewhere.com. Our class is going to be with full and empty of 10. And a ref is going to be email. All right. We'll implement that reference here. So we say const emails equal to ref. And essentially, if you're not familiar with Vue, this is just a way of binding this variable to this actual element. So we can say, email.value to get the actual value. Now let's do the same thing again with our password. So we have input, self-closing input, and we're going to do the same exact thing here and say type is equal to password. So that swallowed up my ending things. Type password, label, password, and placeholder. I guess it'll also be password, and the class will be the same thing. So width full. Let's actually make this 5, and again ref is equal to password. And let's implement that ref again. Password is equal to ref. All right, and then the final part over here is just to create a button. And let's auto import that with control space. And we're going to say when I click on the button. So login. And let's just create that function. Function login. And let's just console log that to make sure everything is hooked up properly. Logging in. Cool. And the last thing we need to do over here is just say text is equal to login. And the class is margin top of 10 and width full. And that should be that. Just make that. That should be this for the login component. So if we see how that looks, doesn't look great. We still have some weirdness going on over here with our inputs, but that can be sorted pretty quickly. The reason that it looks so weird is because we didn't install the Tailwind CSS forms plugin. So let's just do Tailwind CSS forms, and let's just add that in real quick. So we have the Tailwind CSS forms. We'll just install that. And all you have to do is add that to your Tailwind config file. And let's go to login, Tailwind, plugins. And we just require in that. All right, cool. So now let's just double check that that worked. So you go back here, we see that everything looks a lot nicer. Cool. Now that we finished that, we have to just hook that up into the login. Well, the actual login functionality, that is. So let's go to login and say that we want to await. So let's actually make this async. And then we say account, which comes from our API. And just to go back a second, our API essentially is where we set up the Appwrite instance. We have account, and this is where you manage user accounts. You can create accounts, you can log into accounts, you can log out from accounts, you can create magic sessions, you can, magic email links. This is the entry point for all your account management stuff. So we're going to say .create email session. And if we can see here that all it needs is the email and password. So we just say email.value and password.value. And that's it for now. This isn't going to work just yet because we have to first create an account. So let's go to the registration, register.vue. And this is just going to be very similar. In fact, we could just copy everything over from the login into the register and just change a few small things. So let's just say create your account, or log in to your account. This will now point to login. We're going to have here our email password, same thing. And we're going to say register. And we're going to change this function to register. And this will be register. Oop, what happened here? Register. And this will also be register. And if we remember how we created an account, it was just by saying, So if not email dot value, let's just do some input validation, or not password dot value. We're just going to return early over here. Otherwise, we want to await account.create unique, and this is the ID that Appwrite will create, email.value, password.value. Okay, and that will create our account for us. And then we just want to log in automatically. If we just registered our account, we want to automatically be logged in. And the last thing we need to do in terms of UI, even before we do that, just to make sure that this is working, so we're at the login page, we can go to the registration page, and that didn't work, and that's because we haven't yet added the registration route to our routes. So let's just copy this and say register. This is register and register from register.vue. And this is the register component. And if we go back here now, so we have create your account or log into your account. You see now we have two-way navigation. So let's first create our account. So let's say test@test.com, abcd1234, and register. Invalid email. So let's actually see what happened over here. Do we have anything in the background here? We did not get our new user. So let's try that again. I feel like maybe they're valid test.com, abcd1234. Let's try that again. Go to all. We have 400. So that's because we didn't pass the correct email and value. So let's go back to our registration. And what we need to do over here, email password. Oh, what I think we need to do is vmodel password. And we want to do the same thing over here as vmodel instead of ref. Vmodel is equal to email. And if we go to view, we can verify that that's working. Let's go to our components. App1 components. We have register. There we go. So test@test.com, abcd1234, and register. Awesome. Now if we go back here and refresh, we'll see we now have the new email. So what I did wrong over here, just to go back, is I was actually setting a reference to the element as opposed to the actual value. So all you have to do is just change that to vmodel over here, change that to vModel over here, and vModel password, and that should all work now. Cool. And we can see that we're actually, if we go to the application, we can see that we're actually logged in via Appwrite. Very nice. The last thing I want to do before we call it the end for this video, because it is taking some time, is just to create an application page, which will just be where the user goes after they log in. So template, let's just say H1 application, and we're just going to say when they log in. So we're going to say const router is equal to use router. That's just to get a reference to the router, and then router dot push to application. And we'll do the same thing in the registration. Const router is equal to use router. Let's import that with control space. Let's just copy this line from here. Cool, and we just have to register that as a route back in our main.ts. So we have app, we'll just call it, and then the name is application, and this will just be application. Let's import that at the top, application, and here again, application. Cool. The issue that we have now, though, is that any user could just navigate to this route and they'll get it. So we actually have to protect that route. So what we're going to do is like this. We're going to say that the account routes, const account routes, are the login and register routes. And these are essentially the routes we want to navigate to the application route if we're already logged in. So we're going to say router dot before each. And we're going to say async to, which is where we're going from, and next. And we're going to say like this. So we want to know where we're going to is equal to name as string. Now we're going to try something like this. We're going to say const session. Now we're going to try to get the Appwrite session is account. So we're going to have to import that. Import account from, sorry, that's not API index. And to account.get session current. And what this will do is if I'm logged in, it will give me the current session. If I'm not logged in, it will throw an error. Right, so we'll get to handle the error in a second. So we want to say to.meta.session is equal to session, and this is so we have the Appwrite session in other routes. Let's say in the application route, we want to have access to it to know who the current user is. And then we'll say if account routes that includes name, meaning that we're currently on login and register and we're logged in, return next. Name is equal to application. All right, and now if not account routes that includes name, and this means if we are not logged in and we're not currently on the login and register route, we want to navigate the user to the login route. And I think that should cover it. Let's just go next here just in case something else happens. And that should be good. So if we go to app and try to refresh, did I not save this? Okay, that's because I'm logged in. Right, so that worked. So let's actually just clear my login. Let's go to cookies, get rid of that, go to local storage, and essentially now I'm logged out. If I refresh, you'll see that I'm redirected to login. If I try to go to the app route, which is a protected route, I go to login. Once I log in, test@test.com, I hope I remember the password ABCD1234, and log in. That now takes me to the app route. And I think this is a good place to stop for now. So to summarize, we created the authentication stuff, login, registration. In the next video, we're going to start off with the basic interface of the WhatsApp web interface, essentially, and probably get started on sending messages. So it's going to be a really exciting one, and I'll see you in the next one. And I promise I'll upload much, much quicker than last time. All right, see you then. Bye-bye.